Hey guys, Lencac here. Just doing a little follow-up on the range test I did. This is the day after. The video I posted up, it was getting a little long, so I kind of cut it short without doing any follow-up or review or anything. But I want to kind of go over what my thoughts were and how I thought it all turned out. Generally, as you saw, I think it all worked out very well, it seems like. The rifle shot very well. It all came about with getting the gas plug adjusted and the iron sights, getting those adjusted. And even when I put the scope on it. Now, I will say that I had a couple of rounds that were a little bit errant with the trigger cam on it, because it's just kind of awkward. It's a little bit awkward. One, it's got this, so it interfered with my cap a little bit, and I suppose with a little work, you could learn to use it a little better. But that was just my first time using it. But it seemed like when I was being diligent about it, you see what I was primarily worried about, and it didn't really prove to be an issue here. But when you put the trigger cam on, slide it over your ocular, you lose maybe that much, maybe ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch of your eye relief. So I was trying to be very aware so I didn't get scope bit by it. And like I say, fortunately these rifles have very little recoil to begin with, especially when you're like I've got it outfitted. But at any rate, that's what we saw. I think it all came out pretty darn well. As you saw, it beat hell out of the steel post out there at 200 yards. But a couple of things I want to, after watching the video and stuff, a couple of things I want to make a couple of little adjustments on it. One is I want to take the rear sight and it's at the bottom. The rack is now at the bottom of its travel, and as you saw at 100 yards, I would say it maybe was a little bit low, tiny bit low, and in all honesty, at 100 yards, I prefer to have the round be basically a couple inches high. So I'm going to readjust the rear sight. I'm going to re-index the elevation knob so that it reads 100 with a couple of clicks up on the rear. And I'll have to take the scope off to do that. As you can see, I basically have, there's basically no room between the scope and the sight. And then the other thing too is I noticed it still looked like it was a bit lazy on ejecting the brass. So I'm going to give the Schuster adjustable gas plug one more click, tighten up that venting a little bit so it vents a little bit less. I think I want to see the extraction be a little more authoritative. And then the other thing I want to take and move the front sight just another tiny little bit over, and which I think is because I think it was still had a little bit of a bias to the left. And I moved it a little bit at the range yesterday, but I need to move it just a tiny bit more. In all honesty, the sight, as I just put it on the flash hider, I kind of just, I didn't know where to start at. So in reality, it had a little bit of a bias to the left to begin with. So I have a feeling if I put the front sight exactly in the middle of its travel, I think it should be very good. And then the other thing I want to do here is, before too long, that was all surplus ammunition I ran through this thing. I want to try some hand-loaded rounds, but I'll have to make up some for that. That'll be another range test in the future. But so far, all things considered, I do believe that I think we're doing pretty well on this thing. It all seems to be coming together. But at this point, I want to do a couple things to the M1. All right, so what I was referring to when I said I was going to adjust the front sight, I kind of give you a little bit of a walkthrough on what I'm looking at here. As you can see here, on this side and this side, you have the sight is on a dovetail, and then the stand is on the flash hider itself. And so what I was doing is I was taking and measuring from the stand to the sight And on that side we got 60 thousandths. And on this side, let's see, on this side, we got 60 thousandths. Now what I did, when I originally put this on, I had it a little bit onto the right side, which means the rifle was going to shoot a bit left. So I zeroed it up just now, put it in the middle of its travel. And if you look, well, what I need to do is I need to take the scope off next. But that's what I was doing. I'm going to leave this in the middle of its travel. If that's the case with the rear sight indexed, boy, getting that barrel lined up was perfect this time. And so now I'm going to take and pull the scope off. I am the Sadlac mount. I don't know. I guess every time I put one on or take it off, I learn a little bit more about them. There's a bit of intricacies involved with getting a Sadlac mount to work properly. They're not all as simple as one might think. But there's took the scope off. As you can see right there, I got the rear sight index to the middle, and that's where I am going to leave it. It is maybe one click. Looks like it's one click off. I'm going to change that one click. I'm going to move that to get it completely indexed. Okay, that was it right there. Alright guys, one thing I wanted to show you though about something, many of you probably already know this, but some of you may not, as far as adjusting your iron sights, because you saw me doing some adjustment on the front side at the range, and so this is what I want to show you something, which is this can all be figured out mathematically, which is what I'm going to show you how to do to tell. Like for instance, if you need to adjust your front sight, how much to adjust it. And of course what you got to do is first you got to get, what is your sight radius? And our sight radius here is, we're going to call it 26 3/4. No, that's 27. It is 27 where the aperture actually sits. It is 27 inches from here, from the front sight to the rear sight. That is your sight radius. The longer the sight radius, the better. Okay, so you see some like AKs and stuff, they have little short sight radius on them. Every error you make on it is exaggerated by the shorter the sight base, or the sight radius. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to take 27 inch and divide it into 3600, which is 3600 inches to 100 yards. And divide that by 27, and that comes up to 133.333333333. And so how is that important? All right. Let's say you are 2 inches off on your windage at 100 yards. Let's say you're 2 inches, like I was, say, 2 inches off to the left. How do you know how much to move this front sight? Because the front sight, you follow the point of impact with the front sight, and you go opposite the point of impact on the rear sight when you're adjusting. But if I want to move the front sight, how far should I move it? Well, we have a factor of 133.33. That's how many times you can divide 27 inch into 3600 inches. And so suppose, let's just say we move the front sight 10 thousandths of an inch. Say we're 2 inches off to the left. Let's move it 10 thousandths. So if you take 133.33 times 0.010, you come up with 1.33 inches. Okay? So if we want 2 inches adjustment, we're going to have to go a little more. So suppose we go and take 133.33 times 0.012. That's 12 thousandths instead of 10 thousandths. We come up with 1.59 inches. That's how much it's going to, if you move this front sight 12 thousandths of an inch, it is going to affect the point of impact at 100 yards by almost 1.6 inches. And so let's see, let's try it with, let's go 15 thousandths if we want to get 2 inches out of the front. So 133, that's our factor, multiplied by 0.015. There you go, that comes out to 1.999, that's 2 inches. So suppose you were off 2 inches to the left, how far do you move the front sight to make it 0? In this case, because of our sight radius being 27 inches, you would move the front sight 15 1/1000ths to make a 2-inch difference at 100 yards, if that makes sense to you. And but anyways, that's how you figure that. That's how you figure that out. And of course, as you can see, that the shorter the distance is, the more your multiplication factor becomes, which ultimately ends up, the shorter the sight radius, the less accurate the rifle will be. All right, guys, that's my follow-up on the M1A, on my M1A rehabilitation project. As you saw, I took this from a SOCOM 16 to this, and I think so far it's panned out pretty well. But at any rate, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. Maybe you got a little useful information out of it. Every time I do one of these, I learn a little bit more about them. But at any rate, I appreciate you all watching. I very much appreciate all my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. If you notice, I never beg for subscribers. I don't even put ads on my channel because I find that very annoying. And what kind of hypocrite would I be if I put ads on my channel and I can't stand them myself? So anyway, I don't want to burden you guys with that kind of nonsense anyways. All right, guys. This is Lencac over and out.